Welcome to the Life Groups. I am so glad that you guys are here. Well, we're going to continue our study on discipleship. Beloved, there is a harvest of souls coming to this house, and God is asking us to get ready to disciple them. So not only are we being discipled, but more importantly, we are learning how to disciple others. The church has been called to make disciples. This week, we're going to focus on the third person of the Godhead, the Holy Spirit. So, who is the Holy Spirit? Well, according to a recent Lifeway survey of 56%, that's over half of Americans who say that they are Christians, they believe that the Holy Spirit is a force rather than a person. And another 28%, they say the Holy Spirit is a divine being, but not equal to God the Father and God the Son. Okay, let's talk about this. Who is the Holy Spirit? Here's the short answer. He is a person. He's not a force or electricity or an it. He is the third person of the Godhead. In John 14:16 through 17, Jesus promised to send to us a helper who would abide with us forever. He called him the Spirit of Truth, and that he would dwell with us and that he would actually be in us. Now we find that in Acts 5, verse 3 through 5, Ananias and his wife lied to the Apostle Peter. When they did, they dropped dead. Why did this happen? Well, Peter said to Ananias, "Why has Satan filled your heart to lie," get this, "to the Holy Spirit?" Then in verse 4, Peter said, "You have not lied to men, but to God," rightfully calling the Holy Spirit God. Now, where does the Holy Spirit reside? We've already mentioned this, but let's talk about it. In 2 Timothy 1:14, Paul tells us that the Holy Spirit dwells in us. In fact, in 1 Corinthians 6:19, he also tells us that our bodies are the temple of the Holy Spirit who is in us. So he dwells in our bodies. How do we receive the Holy Spirit? Ephesians 1:13 says, "In him you also, when you heard the word of truth, the gospel of your salvation, and believed in him, were sealed with the promised Holy Spirit." Beloved, all confessing believers who have accepted Jesus Christ as Lord have the Holy Spirit residing in them. We know this because 1 Corinthians 12:3 tells us plainly that no one can say Jesus is Lord except by the Holy Spirit. So after receiving the Holy Spirit as salvation, now I'm not talking about the full baptism. That's a total different subject. Here is what you can expect from him. In John 16, verses 8 through 14, John outlines 5 functions of the Holy Spirit. Let's name them. Number 1, he tells us that he will convict. Number 2, he will guide. Number 3, he will speak. Number 4, he will tell or he will declare. And lastly, number 5, he will glorify Jesus. Jesus not only wants the Holy Spirit to be in us, but he wants us to be filled with the Holy Spirit. Ephesians 5:18 says, "And do not get drunk with wine, for that is debauchery, but be filled with the Spirit." Why did Paul speak about being drunk as an illustration of being filled? Because no one gets drunk on one sip of wine, nor do they get drunk by just holding the bottle. You can only get drunk by drinking wine and drinking it over and over again. We too must be filled constantly with the Holy Spirit. It's not just a one-time thing, but every day we should be asking him to fill us again and again and again. Obviously, there's so much more I could teach concerning the Holy Spirit, but I want you guys to search out the scriptures and do a study on your own on this glorious subject. I want you to read Galatians 5:16-21 and answer the following questions. We know that our flesh wars against our spirit, but can you name a time when your spirit went to war against your flesh? And according to Galatians 5:19-21, what are some of the sins that the Holy Spirit is trying to deliver us from? And lastly, if the Holy Spirit dwells in us, then what happens to him when we sin? Does he leave us? All right. Next time, guys, we're going to be talking about water baptism. Well, again, I want to thank you all for coming out to Life Groups, and I pray that you will have a great time fellowshipping together. Thanks again, guys. Have a great evening.